Grandad had quite recently awakened, lying languidly in his bed as the early morning light separated through the drapes. He could hear faint rings and rattles coming from the kitchen underneath, where Anne, his little girl in regulation, was getting ready breakfast. The delicate, soothing sound of morning life wrapped the house. He turned over, choosing to rest his eyes for only a couple of additional prior minutes beginning his day. The house felt tranquil, and the glow of the bed coaxed him to rest somewhat longer. In any case, unexpectedly, a sound got through his half-rest. It was a cradle song, an old song, one that his better half used to sing when their kids were youthful. The song floated through the child screen that sat next to his bed. His brain, still hazy from rest, felt a peculiar feeling of history repeating itself. For what reason was his significant other singing a bedtime song? Their kids were totally developed now, and his significant other had spent away quite a long while prior. Befuddled, he went after the screen. On the screen, he saw the little den where his infant grandkid dozed. The child, scarcely half a month old, was quiet, profoundly snoozing. Yet, the spooky part was that the delicate, melodic cradle song was all the while being sung, and it was undeniably his better half's voice. She was singing, similarly as she had done quite a long time back, the very relieving children's song that used to comfort their infants. He squinted at the screen, feeling his heart race. The figure in the room was foggy, yet he could make out a lady sitting close to the lodging, her head bowed as she kept on singing. His heart crashed in his chest. He realized it couldn't be imaginable. His significant other was gone, this should be a fantasy. However, the sound was excessively genuine, excessively close. He sat up in bed, his body shivering with an odd combination of fear and mistrust. Was this his better half, or would he say he was just envisioning things? He constrained himself up, tossed on his robe, and strolled toward the child's room. His feet felt weighty, as though each step carried him nearer to something incomprehensible. He needed to see her, needed to accept that in some way, by some marvel, his better half had returned. In any case, as he moved toward the room, the children's song developed fainter, and when he arrived at the entryway, it halted by and large. He remained there briefly, his hand shaking as he went after the entryway handle. Before he could open the entryway, a sound from ground floor grabbed his eye. It was the front entryway squeaking open, trailed by the natural snap of heels on the hardwood floor. He froze, his psyche hustling. Who could be coming in at this hour? His little girl in regulation and was at that point in the kitchen, and his child was away on business. He moved away from the child's room and gradually advanced to the steps. As he arrived at the top step, he saw a figure remaining by the entryway, putting keys on the corridor table. His breath trapped in his throat. It was his significant other. She remained there, looking precisely as she had the day she left, her natural coat hung over her shoulders, her hair perfectly stuck back. She grinned delicately as she took off her shoes, her face quiet, as though nothing had at any point different. As though she wasn't away for quite a long time. He grasped the handrail, his legs shudder. His psyche was attempting to fathom the way things were playing out. Was this genuine? Was it her? Or on the other hand would he say he was freaking out? Anne? He called, his voice scarcely in excess of a murmur. However, at that point, his brain snapped back. No, Anne was in the kitchen. This was not Anne. This was his better half, yet she had been dead for a really long time. The lady gazed toward him, her eyes meeting his with a knowing look. Briefly, the world appeared to shift around him. She stopped, not moving, simply taking a gander at him, as though hanging tight for him to say something, to comprehend. Yet, how is this even possible? His psyche was twirling with questions. Similarly, as he was going to talk once more, Anne emerged from the kitchen, cleaning her hands on a drying towel. "Gracious, you're conscious," she said with a comforting grin. "Breakfast will be prepared soon." He looked among Anne and the figure by the entryway, his heart beating. "Do you see her?" he asked, his voice shaking. Anne scowled, befuddled. "See who?" He turned around to the entryway. The figure of his significant other was gone. The keys actually lay on the lobby table, however the lady he had recently seen minutes prior had evaporated. His heart dashed quicker now, the creepy sensation of her presence actually lingering palpably. He hurried to the child's room, his hands shaking as he opened the entryway. The child was still snoozing in the lodging, however the room was quiet. No cradle song, no spooky figure sitting next to the youngster. Everything was as it ought to be, yet the feeling of anxiety bothered him. Anne followed him, her forehead wrinkled with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, venturing nearer to him. He shook his head, attempting to figure out everything. I assumed I heard her. I assumed I saw her." Anne's appearance relaxed. She put a delicate hand on his arm. "Some of the time our psyches pull pranks on us, particularly when we miss somebody," she said delicately. In any case, he understood what he had seen, what he had heard. His significant other's voice, her presence, it had been genuine, basically for those passing minutes. The house, when a position of solace and commonality, presently felt weird, loaded up with reverberations of the past, with recollections that would not rest. He took a full breath, attempting to consistent himself. "Perhaps you're correct," he mumbled, "however where it counts." He was unable to shake the inclination that something, or somebody, had genuinely been there. As he left the room, he looked again at the child's screen. The screen hushed up, no indication of anything surprising. In any case, the memory of that cradle song, of the lady by the bunk, remained with him. Furthermore, as he approached his day, he really wanted to ponder, had his significant other return briefly, to comfort their grandkid the manner in which she had once ameliorated their own kids. Or on the other hand, was it something different, something he couldn't yet get it? The house felt different at this point. The air, once warm and loaded up with the natural hints of life, appeared to convey a waiting chill. He strolled to the window, watching out at the brilliant morning, yet the anxiety remained. Someplace, somewhere down in the shadows of his psyche, the bedtime song actually played.